Okay, I think we can start. So thank you everybody for joining us this morning. My name's Dr. Peter Todd. I'm the director of the Bachelor of Environmental Studies program. I'm joined today by Zahida, who's the executive on the program, and she keeps everything running smoothly, and she'll be here to answer some of the more technical questions that you might have later on. And also by Wen-Sin, who's the secretary of the student committee, and she's going to speak to you about some other aspects of BES and CHS after I talk. So I'm going to talk for about 25 minutes or so, and then Wen-Sin will talk for about 10 minutes, and then we'll take your questions. But feel free to pop any questions into the chat anytime. So I think some of you, probably most of you have seen some of these talks before. We give a range of open house and open day talks to encourage students to join BES. So rather than just going over exactly the same material again, in this talk I focus a little bit on the research opportunities of BES. But I'll start by just going over some of the fundamentals again. So it's, as you know, it's a 4-year program. It's one of the very few cross-disciplinary programs, these XDPs, which are quite special in NUS. And it's the longest running one. It's, so we're in our 10th year now. So we're celebrating our 10th anniversary, which is great. And it's fundamentally run between geography and biology, but we pull in expertise from around the university. And the goal of this is to take a cross-disciplinary approach to environmental studies so that you can translate your passion for the environment into meaningful action. So most of the modules are offered by, you'll be taking quite a lot of biology modules and quite a lot of geography modules. Of course, we have our core E&V modules, and then you'll have a selection of modules to take from across these other schools and departments. If you visited our website, and maybe if you've joined our previous talks, you'll know that the BES mission is to foster this cross-disciplinary approach to identifying, analyzing, and solving environmental challenges in Singapore, Asia, and beyond. So I'm sure you're aware of the many environmental issues that we're facing, and often they can be quite depressing. So we try and, as much as we can, focus on the solutions to these challenges. We want to develop you into environmental leaders and advocates, people who can actually make some change, and drawing upon the broad experience that you'll gain through your time in BES. We encourage creativity in our students. We strongly believe that creativity is important for environmental studies and for all learning, and also so that you can adapt to this, very dynamic world with the many challenges that are coming ahead. And we critically examine the human-environmental bonds through a wide range of pedagogies, of learning styles and teachings, and hopefully to develop a more personal conservation ethos, so that you, to bring out that connection between humans and nature. So this is the general structure of the program. We take in around 50 students a year. We try and cap it at 50, so it's a nice and small cohort. In years 1 and 2, well, certainly in year 1, it's mostly the general CHS modules, which are across the whole university. And Wen-Sin will talk to you a bit more about that, because she's the first cohort in BES to have taken the new CHS modules. So she knows much more about it than I do. But but you'll take one module in your first year, which is the E&V coded Environmental Studies and Interdisciplinary Overview. And then these other modules, Methods and Techniques for Environmental Studies, Communication, and the Environment and Public Health and Environmental Law will all be offered to you in the second year. And then you have these other modules. So these modules in yellow are the modules which are core modules for BES, and then the ones in white are other modules that you have access to and which we feel important, and you'll have to take some of them, but you have some choice. Basically, they're in baskets, and you get to have a choice. The ones in yellow, not so much. Although over here in the years 3 and 4, we've started offering a couple of baskets of modules for our BS students as well. So we're trying to increase the number of E&D coded modules which we offer, and now we have enough to be able to actually give you some choices as well. But in your 3rd and 4th year, you can be expecting to take environmental challenges. We have assessment of environmental impacts. Sorry, there's a bullet point missing here. We have these research opportunities, which I'll talk about more in this talk today. So there's undergraduate research opportunities. And then we have internships, we have our field course, and then we have our environmental management in Singapore final. That's in the final semester. So last module that you'll do. It's kind of a capstone module for the program. It can be emotional. It's the last class you'll be taking with all these classmates that you'll have got to know so well over 4 years. So why BS? So it's we have this, like I say, this small cohort, which means, and you'll take a lot of classes with the same group. So you'll get to know your classmates very well. Many of the students form very strong friendships, which last for a long time. And that makes it, really quite appealing. And the students support each other a tremendous amount, and not just within the cohort, but across years as well. So the seniors are very supportive of the juniors, share their experiences, and help them along the way. This exclusive core curriculum, so the BES modules, which are coded E&V, so all those E&V modules are just for you. They're just for BES, except for one. We have one E&V coded module, which we're experimenting with letting other students take it. But all the other modules are designed for BES and can only be taken by BES. We have a specialized field course, which I'll talk about a bit later on as well. So focusing on environmental issues in the region. We have internship opportunities, and we run our own internship program. We have lots of research opportunities, which I will talk about in some detail. You get to study abroad if you want to. We have cross-disciplinary honors projects, and you get the opportunity to interact with environmental leaders. So many of our courses involve guest lectures from colleagues and leaders in Singapore and beyond. And then in that final year, 4101 environmental management, we'll have many panels of speakers coming into the module. So why is research important? So research is a fantastic way of it helps focus the mind. It generates independence. But it's fundamentally essential for answering your environment-related questions. There's so many issues that we have to deal with. Some of them are leaning on the harder sciences, which might be pure biology or chemistry and physics. There's lots of geography-related questions, both in physical geography and human geography. And then human geography is more on your societal issues, and there's lots of social science questions as well. So all of these need to be answered, and all of these require research and research techniques to be able to do it well. So you need to engage with this. It's immersive and helps you understand both nature and society. So it's extremely absorbing. It helps you appreciate maybe more of the complexities of resolving some of these issues. So when you'll learn a lot about what these issues are during your time in BES, and it will definitely help you appreciate how challenging it is to understand these issues and to pin them down, and to so things like the basis of climate change models and so on. Obviously, there's a huge amount of science goes into that, and it will also will help you understand why fixing these issues is also very challenging, and how research is so important to that. It's essential training if you're interested in doing a higher degree, a master's or a PhD, or going into academia, which is basically more and more research. But even if you're not going in that direction, it's still very important to understand, in any environment-related job, you need to be able to understand the basic research. So when we talk about science-informed decision-making and so on, it's important to have a good understanding of how that research is done, so that you will be able to better position to critically appraise whether you think it's done well, and whether you think this issue is as much of an issue as it's made out to be, or whether this solution is really a solution, or whether it's just somebody bigging up something or greenwashing something. So all those critical thinking skills are really important. And of course, research is great because it's about discovery, and it's fun and it's rewarding, and it's entirely possible that you will, during your time as an undergraduate, if you get into this, that you'll discover something which nobody else on the planet knows, and that's can be very satisfying. So soft and hard skills, critical analysis of complex issues, as I've kind of mentioned, creative thinking and problem solving. So we don't always tend to associate creative thinking with research or with science, but it's really important. It's really important for thinking of interesting things to examine. It's really important for coming up with cunning experimental designs or research designs or survey designs for answering your problem. There's generally, you don't do it just by yourself. You'll usually be working as part of a team. So communication and teamwork is very important. You'll learn some hard skills in field sampling techniques, social science techniques. You'll be doing some statistics and some modeling. And then you'll also have to boost your writing skills. So we tend to think that writing is, some students come into, for instance, our life sciences program, which I also teach on, hoping to avoid doing very much writing and so on. They think science doesn't require writing, but of course it does. You need to be able to communicate your results and your findings. So writing skills are important. And we'll teach you the specific writing skills for this kind of sector. So the academic and technical writing skills you'll need. So types of research opportunities within BES and NUS, so they range from just basically learning the techniques and doing kind of in-class learning to self-conceptualized and self-driven research that can reach a professional standard and get published. So when we often talk about publishing research, and that's what scientists it's what all academics do, not just scientists, but across the board. Academics, when they do their research, they have to disseminate their research to a wider audience, and they tend to do that through what we call publishing. So you'll write it up in the form of an academic paper and then publish that in an academic journal. And this is really kind of a mark of making it as an academic. And these journals might be geography journals or conservation journals, environmental journals, biological journals. There's a wide range of, there's as many journals as there is research out there. Okay, so here we've got a list of the kind of opportunities that we offer in BES, and I'll kind of go through these fairly briefly one by one. So we have in-class practicals, field trips and projects. Some of the modules which you will have access to, for instance, biodiversity, applied data analysis, and ecology and evolution, methods and practices in geography, ecology and environment, environmental challenges, they all have hands-on aspects. This might be out in the field, it might be in the laboratory, but it could even be desk-based statistics and modeling. But all of them will teach you some techniques and some hard skills that will help you with doing research in the future. We have our own ENV coded module, ENV 2301, sorry, methods and techniques in environmental studies. And here are some examples of the kind of things that you learn in this module. So carbon biomass estimation through measuring tree diameter. Take a trip to St. John's Island, get some hands-on work working on their coral transplantation projects and seeing what they do for coral restoration over there. So lots of survey and monitoring techniques for environmental studies, covering marine, freshwater and terrestrial systems, but also learning and practicing social science techniques such as questionnaire design, interview techniques, and so on. So this is an entire module dedicated towards training you up in research techniques. Field courses, great opportunity to get some hands-on practice. So we offer a 2-week field course every year, which everybody takes. Up until COVID, this was in the Philippines and Bohol. We might go back to the Philippines, we might go somewhere else. So we're hoping to start the field trip abroad again next summer. So, by the time, and certainly by the time you're doing the field course, I'm sure it will be done abroad again. But we're looking at other places as well. So we're not sure whether, we've been at Bohol for about 6 or 7 years. So we might try somewhere else out. So this gives you an opportunity to try out the skills that you've learned back in Singapore, and work with local communities as well on their conservation initiatives and understand what the problems are on the ground and what you can do to help and how research fits into that. So you'll be collecting data from forests, marine, freshwater systems, and also understanding better what the local threats are and what the potential solutions are. So during COVID times, we've been running the field course in Singapore, and it's running right now. We started Monday. So, and we do a week of going out into the field and then a week of project work. So some of these photos, these ones just here on the top left, were just taken back on Monday when we went over to Pulau Hantu to do some snorkeling. So look at this clear water. This is Singapore. So you can do snorkeling and have some opportunities to do some reef survey in Singapore. And we also work on forest systems and also freshwater systems, also a bit of lab work, go over to Ubin, do some kayaking around the mangroves, basically to expose students to kind of some of the hidden corners of Singapore and help you not understand the changes in Singapore, some of the local issues particularly with land use change and coastal change, but also some of the hidden gems that we have here as well. And it's been so popular that we're thinking of continuing it. So hopefully we'll have 2 field courses in the future, and you can go abroad, or you can do a field course in Singapore, or you can do both. There's a lot to see and do here. And then there's other field courses offered by geography and biology, again, which you will have access to. So you can do additional field courses if you want to. So Europe's and Europees, what are these? So Europe is the research. So Europe is undergraduate research opportunity, and geography offers. In geography, it's just called Europe. And basically, it's worth 4 MCs in geography. So it's 1 semester. It's worth the equivalent of doing 1 module. But basically, it's research based. So you will be working on your own or in a team to come up with a study question and collect your own data, and then analyze and interpret those data and write it up as a report. And then we do a similar thing in biology, except it's called Europs. So it's undergraduate research opportunities in science. And we offer an opportunity to spread it out over 8 MCs, so they can do it over 2 semesters and make it into a bigger project. And again, the same idea. And in biology, you tend to join a lab. So most of the professors here have laboratories, and you join that team and then engage in the research, learn from the team, and learn from your supervisor, of course. And you can do quite a lot. And certainly for an 8 MC Europe, you can get quite a lot of research done. And they'll take you through the whole process of basically what it is to be an academic, or if you're doing a Europs, what it is to be a scientist. And you can do these generally at a 2,000, 3,000 level. We used to be able to do it. In the 2nd semester of year 1, but now with CHS, it's a bit tight. So we recommend that you do it in 2,000, 3,000, and you can do more than 1. You can do 1 in year 2 and year 3, no problem. So an example here of Huyen. So she was a BES student who chose to do an 8 MC Europs with me, and she was looking at the effects of sediment on corals in Singapore. So she was a diver, and she would go out there and put on small patches of sediment onto different corals and see how long it takes them to clear the sediment from their tissues. And that's already been published in a small journal. And she's now moved on. She's just finished her MSc, and she's started a PhD at NTU. Another of our BS students managed to do 2 Europs abroad. So he got opportunities to do a Europs in Queensland and another one in Okinawa, and got hooked on doing research. And so he's now doing his PhD at NTU as well, also on marine systems. And then we have Europes. So this is our own ENV coded module. So this is undergraduate research opportunities in environmental studies. And this is the same concept as Europe and Europs, except that it basically provides an opportunity to do something which is more cross-disciplinary. So if you're doing geography Europe, it's going to be more geography leaning. If you do a Europs, it's going to be more biology leaning. So Europes allows you to do something which is a bit of both, and that's obviously highly appropriate for BES students. We have this large pool of supervisors who are all happy to supervise BS students and all have a background or some background in interdisciplinary studies. So you can do any of these 3. You can do if you want to do something which is more geography, do a Europe. Something which is more sciencey, do a Europs. And if you want to do cross-disciplinary, you do Europes. And these are some of the projects that we've done so far. Whether it's something which is a bit more social sciencey, like reading on screens, so that you're not, having to print books, versus looking at coastal modification in the Philippines, living shorelines in Singapore, some more technical research on transport of ions and organic matter in the Central Nature Reserve, Central Catchment Nature Reserve, and so on. So, a wide range of projects. And some of these are self-developed by the students, and some of these are offered by the supervisor. And, you contact a professor and ask if they're offering anything, and then see if it interests you. So here we've got Shushan, who worked on, he was the one working on the coastal hardening in the Philippines. And then he went on to working on these mangrove pods in Ubin. So this was so he did basically a GIS, a desk-based project. That was about in the middle of COVID when it was difficult to go out. And then when we could go out, he started doing more hands-on research out in the field. So these pods are designed to act as planters for mangrove trees to give them a head start as part of a mangrove restoration effort. Sometimes in the internships that we offer, you get some chance to do research. This varies. Internships are, it can be anything. So sometimes it's, it might be helping out with educational outreach, might be desk-based analysis, and sometimes it's a bit more hands-on. So we have research opportunities run through the university, which you can take. We have one run by FASS, we have one run by the Faculty of Science called UPIP, and these are accessible to you. You can take these if you want. And through the system Talent Connect, there's hundreds and hundreds of research opportunities for you to go through. But then we also offer our own research interns program, which is a bit more focused on environmental related opportunities. So we do some filtering and engage various organizations in Singapore, which we think would be appropriate for BES. And then you have your honours project in geography called HP, or final year project in biology, which, so if you want to, you don't have to do one of these, do an honours project. You can you can do it purely by coursework now. But we'd certainly encourage you to do some research if you have the opportunity to. They're run slightly differently between geography and biology, and all of you will have a choice. So you'll now that we don't have specializations within BES, you have a choice whether you want to do an honours thesis in geography or do it in biology. It's completely up to you. So again, you will be working under a supervisor. This could be one of the BES lecturers, or it could be a lecturer professor in geography or in biology, and you'll stay with them for 2 semesters and work on a piece of a project which will be hopefully, usually they're substantial, and like I say, sometimes it's a smaller part of the bigger project. Sometimes it's completely standalone and it's completely your own thing. And here we've got some examples of our past BES students. So here's Gwen and Sam, both working on coral reefs with our assistant director of BES, Prof. Huang Dan Wei. So this is already, so Gwendolyn's FYP research is already published in Marine Environmental Research, which is a nice journal. It's also been featured in the Straits Times. Some more work by Ren Min and Chu Min, also featured in the Straits Times. This is again their honors work. We have Crystal Wee, who is a bit, quite high profile BS student, has a lot of social media engagement going on, was very active as an undergraduate. And then she did her honors project in the Reef Ecology Lab, which again, she managed to publish. And now she's working at DHI, the largest environmental consultancy in Singapore. Wenting, she did her honors project in my lab and also managed to publish it, and is now an environmental consultant at Mott MacDonald. It's not all marine. I know the marine students better than some of the others, but it's not just marine. So Ling Lim published her work in Conservation Biology, which is an excellent journal, and that was her FYP work. Denise, she did her Europe's in Finland FYP in my lab, and is now halfway through her PhD at NTU. So she's got hooked onto the research as well. We have Sean, who's doing a PhD after doing his honors. He's now moved on to doing a PhD in spatial ecology. Sam Chan, community ecology. We have Yitan doing a PhD on population genetics. We have Hannah she's in my lab working on seawall ecology. So these are all BES students. She's just finishing up her PhD on just now. Then Yu Chen is doing her PhD on sustainable oil palm. And Jenny, she did her PhD in my lab on interactions between corals and macroalgae, and she's just finished her PhD last year, and she's now a research fellow over on St. John's Island, and is just taking up another research fellow position in Australia. So she's leaving later this month to start a postdoctoral, 2 years of postdoc in Australia, which is great. So these are some of your seniors, yeah, and you can see how well they're doing. So if you are interested in this, and I hope you are, how much you get engaged in research, you don't have to do this. We encourage you to, but you don't have to. And if you get into it, there's lots of opportunities too. And a lot of our students really enjoy the challenges and the excitement of doing their own research. These opportunities, you tend to need to be proactive to find the best opportunities. So if you're interested in this, things like your Europe's and your honors projects, they're not usually advertised. So when you join, if you're interested in engaging in research or working in a lab, you can do it as an internship as well. You can even do it just as a volunteer. I suggest you look at the staff profiles in geography and in Department of Biological Sciences. And look at what the professors are working on and see if anything appeals to you. So if you're into birds, maybe go and look at what Frank Reiter is doing. Prof. Wrighton, he's the bird guy. Li Dai Chin works on spiders. We have entomologists and so on. And at least 3 marine people. So look at what they're doing, see what interests you, and then just drop them an email, a polite email. Use their title, call them prof and doctor or whatever their names are, and just ask them very nicely, are there any research opportunities coming up in their lab? And if there are, then hopefully they'll invite you in for an interview, and off you go. Be adventurous, so try things out, don't be afraid. And so, because sometimes the prof will have ideas for, research ideas or that you hadn't thought about, that are kind of completely left field, but don't be, be open to anything, and you'll learn whatever you do. It'll be an enriching experience. And then once you start, make sure you read, do your background reading, very important. Listen to your supervisors, obviously important. Learn from your fellow researchers, because like if you join a lab, there'll be lots of people around you who will, you know, if they're senior than you, they'll be maybe doing their FYPs, or they're doing their masters, or doing their PhD, or they are already a postdoc or something like that. Lots of people to learn from. You'll probably have to do some statistics. Don't be scared of that. It's not that difficult, and well, it can be challenging, but it's rewarding as well. You need your stats to be able to interpret your data. Enjoy improving your writing. So, like I say, you have to write up your results and write up your findings and put them in a larger context, and that takes some practice. But you'll be a better writer at the end of it. And of course, be safe. You know, if you're going out into the field or you're working in a lab, always safety first. So please do visit our website to learn more about research opportunities and the program in general. And that's it for me. Oh, I'm doing a poor job of this. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing so I can hand over to Wen-Sin. So I hope that's useful to you. And like I say, after Wen-Sin's talk to you, you'll have lots of opportunity to ask us any questions you want. So Wen-Sin, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Okay, let me share my screen now. Can see, right? Okay. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Wen-Sin, and I'll be giving a talk on like why you should join BS. So just a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about. I'm just going to start with an introduction about me and why I chose BS in the first place before I give insight to uni life. So like what my BS experience has been so far as a year 1 student, and what CHS has been like as what I would call the guinea pig batch. Then after that, I'll give a bit more in-depth insight into the different modules you take under BS, CHS, and the extra modules that are not ENV or CHS coded. And before I conclude with just opportunities as a BS student. So you'll see quite a few overlaps with what Prof. Todd has already mentioned. So I will skip through some of it. And you can ask any questions later. Yeah. So before I start about me, so I am a BS student going from year 1 going year 2, and I am majoring in BS with a minor. I'm currently pursuing a minor in GIS, which is Geographical Information Systems. I'm also the secretary of the BS Student Committee and a member of the BS Jungles. So I used to be from Jurong Pioneer JC, and I studied BCMG, which is Bio, Chem, Math, and Geography. My main interests are in the academic field, are research and fieldwork. I also enjoy wildlife photography, dancing, and bird watching. So why did I choose BS? Just a bit of background. I was accepted into E2S2, which is Environmental Earth System Science at NTU, for those who don't know. And I had the decision to choose between BS or NTU. So I'm assuming some of y'all might have the same problem also. So for me, the biggest reason why I chose NUS is because it's quite near, it's closer to my house. I don't stay on campus, so the fact that NUS is closer to home is much easier for me. The other reason is also NUS has a lot of niche modules that I actually want to take. For example, I'm very interested in avian research. So NUS has an avian evolution module that I plan on taking in year 3. Yeah. So the last reason is because it's interdisciplinary. I've always been a geography, biology kind of person. I always enjoyed physical geography and biology. So BS has the opportunity to have a good mix of both. So I chose this instead of E2S2 at NTU. Since E2S2 at NTU, you had to choose specific specializations like environmental biology or tectonics, which is two separate specializations. So you can't take them together, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So my BS experience so far is overall is really just like what Prof taught said, is a mix of geography and biology. And my cohort is quite small. My cohort is 49 people. So it really gives you an experience to like make better, like closer friends compared to bigger cohorts of like maybe life science or geography. So next, I'll talk about the pros and cons of BS. So the pro so far is that you have special access to ENV modules. So for me, I think that there's a small advantage in this case because if you want to take ENV modules, you have to be a BS student. But so for example, if I'm a life science student, I cannot take ENV modules. But if I'm an ENV student, I can take life science modules and geography modules outside of my core ENV modules, which is, I think, an advantage because you have a broader perspective of the world and like what you have to study. So it boosts your portfolio a bit more. But the cons is that you might have to take modules that you don't want to, or you have no experience in. For example, I'm not a big human geography person. So modules like catering to human geography, I might not be as inclined to take, but I still have to take as part of my graduation requirement. So for CHS is a bit different because is still in the testing stage. So overall CHS is as they advertise, is interdisciplinary learning experience. So for all CHS students, as a science student, you have to take art modules, and as an art student, you have to take science modules. So it's really crossing the boundaries, so-called. So once you're under CHS, the pros is that you broaden your horizons since you're taking modules outside of your major. So you learn things that you may not learn for example, if you're taking political science, you can take science modules that you might not take as a political science major. So it's a good like cross between arts and sciences. But the disadvantage is that you have to take content that you might not like. For example, if you're an art student and you don't like science, you have to take science modules regardless. Yes, so I've actually screenshotted the pre-allocation of modules for the BS students. So here you can see that you are pre-allocated 2 modules for each semester. It's in the circle, if you can see, like here. So based on when you come into NUS, based on your matriculation number, whether odd or even, you are allocated any 2 modules. But for this DTK and GEA in Cross, the whole batch will take it together. So this will be a good time for you to like organize your timetable properly so that you can go for these modules with your friends. Okay. You can find more info about this on the CHS website also. So a brief insight to some of the modules you can look forward to in BS-CHS and NUS in general. Some of these overlap with what Prof taught said, but I'll just give a brief intro for each module. So the first one is ENV 1101, which is the Environmental Studies and Interdisciplinary Overview. This is the intro mod that everyone has to take. And basically it is a general module with different lectures from different BS professors. So you get to, for my batch, we got to meet all the different BS professors. So like example, Prof gave us a lecture about marine impacts, and you get to hear from the geography lecturers under BS as well. So in ENV 1101, it includes a group project, presentation, field trips, aside from the lectures, obviously. So for our batch, we went to 3 different field trips, namely Lorong Halus, Sky Greens, and another self-guided tour around NUS. It's subjected to change, but that was what my batch did based on COVID restrictions. Yeah. So generally, this module is just giving a broad overview of different environmental problems from different perspectives. Next is, if you've been looking at the NUS website, I think a lot of you might have been looking at ENV law, which is dreaded by quite a few of us because law is always very, very scary for a lot of us since it always sounds hard, right? So the law module in environmental studies is taught by some staff from the law faculty and the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy. So it covers mainly conservation and pollution laws, how it's passed and implemented on national, regional, which is mainly ASEAN, and international levels. From what I heard from seniors and friends who have taken it, is difficult, but it really gives you a deeper insight into why certain laws have been passed or have not been passed in different parts of the world. After that I will cover the few courses in environmental studies, which actually Prof Talk has already gone through. So just to reiterate, it's just overseas opportunities that you will take in special term 1 of year 3. Yeah, and you just apply what you have learned so far in the real scenario. Okay, so that's all I will cover for BS modules. For CHS modules, at least for year 1, first one of the modules you take, this is the science module. This one is HSI 1000, which is a very general introduction to science. And for me, I took it in semester 1. So my batch focused on climate change and other environmental issues like clean energy and how it works and how it's implemented. So it also included a physical lab session for the clean energy section, where they teach you how like windmills, how the wind energy works or how solar energy works and how it differs from the conventional fossil fuel usage and why it is not widely used at the moment. It also included a self-guided field trip to different nature parks in Singapore that you get to choose. So for example, Labrador Nature Park or Bukit Timah Nature Reserve. It's self-guided, so it will give you more info in the module itself. This is what I went through in Sem 1, but it's subjected to changes because it's still a very new module. So based on previous batch feedbacks, they will change the module accordingly. But I think for now, it should be the same at least for your batch. Yes. So after that is one of the arts module that I'll intro is HSH 1000, the human condition. This is what a lot of us call the philosophy mod, because it is very open and covers a lot of controversial topics and how it makes us human. So for example, how certain decisions that people make, whether you should make it based on whether I should be selfish or I should think of the bigger picture, something like that. It's based on readings like Gilgamesh, Xun Tzu, and Gandhi, which is all of the very philosophical thinkings. So this module is actually very good for people who like to debate, because a lot of debate happens during tutorials. Next, the last one I will cover is GEA 1000, which is a statistics module. So this module for BS students will take in year 1, semester 2. It covers basically the very basic usage of Excel and Radian, and a lot of stats. A lot of stats. A lot of stats concepts like p-value and chi-square test. So for those in JC, just don't throw away your notes yet. Okay, so lastly, I'll cover those EMV modules, not additional modules that are not EMV coded or under CHS. So they are either under life science or geography. So these modules I took in semester 2. So in semester 2, I took LSM 2252, which is biodiversity. So basically you learn about the different phyla of plants and animals and how they are connected to each other through evolution and the tree of life. So it's obviously learning about biodiversity, right? And so for me, it's one of my more favorite mods because it includes a lot of lab sessions and field trips. So you really get the hands-on experience to see how it's like as a bio student learning about the different biodiversity around the world. So an insight to lab sessions is basically you will get physical samples of animals and plants, and you have to identify like their different features and how they are differentiated. So for example, the differences between spiders and ant, for example. So because of evolution, they have evolved in different ways. I find this probably my favorite module so far because I like biology. So next, the other module I took this semester is GE2101. This module for me is under my GIS minor. So it's a requirement for my GIS minor. So basically, as the title says, you learn about methods and practices in both human and physical geography. So like Prof Todd said just now, you have the chance of applying these methods yourself. So we have a section where you have to have a few notebooks. So you have to go out to the field and physically apply these methods. For example, for human geography, you have to go and interview people and ask them about certain research questions that you have to craft yourself before going. And for the physical geography side, what we did was you have to measure the leaf sizes of different trees at your respective locations. And after that, you have to use Excel to calculate all the averages and stuff like that. So it will be good for those who enjoy physical work. Yeah. So finally, for me, I took GE2103, which is our planet and Earth system science perspective. So as it says, it's about Earth system science, and it's a very broad geography mod on how the Earth works. So basically, you'll cover the different spheres of the world, which is the biosphere, geosphere, atmosphere, and hydrosphere. It is very, very general, so it's a good intro mod for a lot of students who have never taken geography before. Okay, so some of you might want to know what a university timetable looks like. So this is my timetable from semester 2. I took 6 modules, which is what we call an overload. So usually a lot of students in semester 1 will take 5 modules, which is 20 MCs, but I took 6 in semester 2. So as you can see, you have the lectures. Most lectures are fixed timings. So you only get to choose tutorial timings. And yeah, but not all tutorial timings are that flexible. For CHS, you have a lot of choices because the cohort is very, very big. But for example, for GE2101, which is a very small cohort, maybe about 70 people, your tutorial slots are only like 3 or 4. But for CHS, you get a lot more choices. So you do have to plan your timetable properly if you want a not so packed timetable. Yes. Okay, so before I conclude my talk, I'll just reiterate some opportunities you get in BS, which is the internships. We get a lot of specialized internship opportunities that are industry specific. So for example, there are some in finance, like green finance, or consultancy that we pass down from seniors. They pass down to us, and then we will spread the info through our Telegram page where you can follow. So it's BS Lobang. So you get a lot of opportunities there. And another one is Europees. This one is, as Prof Todd has already mentioned, so I won't go into detail. But this one is good for a lot of y'all who enjoy research opportunities like me. So I plan on taking a HMC Europees in year 2. So I would think it's a good opportunity for all of you to try it out. At least you can try a 4MC, but from seniors, they say that a 4MC is not as effective because 4MCs, you have to rush through your proposal, your presentation, your research. So AMC would yield more results for you, so you don't have to rush through, but it's up to you. Yeah. With that, I'll just conclude and just come and join BS. Thank you.
Thank you, Wensin. That was interesting for me as well to hear your perspective on the pros and cons and what you've enjoyed so far. And you're completely right. Of course, it's the part of the part of the challenge, or part of the point of BS is to push students out of their comfort zone and to get them to learn, take modules which they might not necessarily think of initially. But there is a plan, I mean, it all ties together to give a more holistic perspective about what environmental studies are, and also because essentially, I'm in biology, I have a science training. When I started, I used to think that environmental issues was something that we could fix with science, but then you learn that's not the case, and really it's much more likely to be fixed through social science and policy. If we're going to make big changes, and ultimately both are important. So and we have students who flipped both ways, so coming in more interested in science, and they end up leaning over towards social sciences and human geography, and vice versa. So you never can quite tell. Yeah, so don't be don't be anxious, or see it. You have to have an adventurous spirit and be open to taking all of these modules. And it's also interesting about the CHS modules, because this is new for the university in general. So always good to hear how the students are getting on with them. But to me, they all look fantastic. I've read through the descriptions of all the modules, all the CHS modules, and they all look pretty interesting. And I actually like the human condition one in particular, but that's just my own philosophical leaning. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. Any questions at all from anybody with us today? I see we've got 33 of you. So if you've got any questions at all, you can, if you're shy, put it in the chat, or if you're not so shy, you can speak to us. Is there a lot of memorizing needed when studying this course as it involves bio and geog? Well, Wednesday might disagree, but I would say no, we don't really go in for memorizing. Most of the modules have, so a lot of the modules don't even have an exam component now. The modules that do have an exam component, it tends to be, the weightage is not particularly high, except I think for environmental law, where I think it's still maybe 50%, but usually it's about 40% on the exam. But generally, the lecturers try and make the exams, they're challenging questions. They're not based on memory, and a lot of the exams are open book, or what we call open universe, in the age of COVID now, where we're basically, we realized we couldn't really stop students from looking online and so on, so we just let them. So when you take your exam, you can do anything you want. You can chat to your friends. You can literally do anything you want. But you've only got 2 hours, and it's just generally best not chatting to your friends, but you can look online and so on. So the questions are designed about your application of knowledge, not regurgitation of facts and figures. So that's a long answer. The short answer is no, you don't need, it's not a lot of memorization.
I can chip in on that, since I've already took some modules for bio and
Sure,
geog.
please do.
If you are from JC, no. It's very different from memorizing geog and bio in JC as a bio and geog student from JC. So you don't have to worry about memorization, but like Prof. Todd said, that there is a lot of, it's mainly open book, but it depends on module. Yeah, for example, 2252, it's open book, but just because it's open book doesn't mean it's easy. So you still have to study. That doesn't mean just because it's open book, you don't have to study, you can just have your notes beside you, because the questions are not easy, they're usually quite tricky. As for geography, my geography module, my GE 2103, was a closed book test. So there is a bit of memorization, I would say, but the questions are quite easy and are quite manageable. So don't need to worry about memorization and stuff like that. Yeah.
But thanks, Winston. And look, it's a good point. So yes, it's definitely, don't get me wrong, it's a mistake if you go into an open universe or open book exam unprepared, because you won't have the time to flick through your books and find the information you need. So there's still some mugging involved, obviously, but it's like I say, it's mostly about application. So it's not about remembering facts and figures. Okay, so some other questions. When do we begin choosing our modules for semester one? Okay, I'm not the best person to ask. Either Zahida or Wenxin are much better positioned to answer this question. Zahida.
Okay, so for year one students, the module registration period will start in around late July. Yeah, after you have completed your matriculation. Yes, there are a few rounds of module registration, like 3 rounds. Yeah.
Could you maybe briefly explain what those rounds entail, Zahida?
Okay, so for mod reg rounds 1 and 2, right? Priority, there are different priorities for different rounds. So for round 1 is mostly priority is given to students with declared majors. Yeah. Then for mod reg round 3, students who want to take more than 23 MCs, this is the round in which they apply for the additional MCs. Yeah. And however, for year one students, right, most of your modules are pre-allocated, so you don't really have to worry about that. Yeah. The only modules that you may have to register for is maybe your residential college modules, if you are enrolled in one, and maybe bridging modules or English modules that you might have to take if you have not passed your qualifying English test. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for that, Zahida. Okay, so I'm just going through. So the difference between what is the difference between life sciences with a specialization in environmental science and BES? So basically, I mean, I'm in life sciences. I'm part of the specialization or in I think it's changed its name now. I think it's ecology, evolution, and biodiversity. So it's basically, it doesn't have any of the or very little of the human component. It has much less of the physical, so basically geography is human geography and physical geography. So it has less of the physical geography, has less of the human geography, and also no access to law and public health and these other modules and communications and some of these other modules that are all modules for BES and count directly towards your major, but nobody else can take them. So if you're doing a life sciences major, your major modules, all your modules towards your major are in science or in life science, and any other modules you want to do outside you take as unrestricted electives. Whereas BES, you have all these modules across the university which count towards your major, and you still have your unrestricted electives that you can use for anything, like a minor or second major or 2 minors. We even have a student doing 3 minors, but for your major you have this breadth. So that's really what differentiates. So quite, I mean, they're both great, but different as well. May I ask, are there any may I ask, are there any specific programs or limitations on computer specs needed for the modules? Putting a computer, not that I know of. Generally, as long as you've got a working laptop or a PC at home. Oh, Wenxing's got an opinion. Okay, so as far as I know, not that I know of. Wenxing,
for me, because I'm in GIS, so GIS you have to use different software. So your computer has to be able to run, like for the most basic one that I'm using right now is Google Earth Pro, but there are other like more sophisticated softwares that you might have to use, especially if you're doing a lot of statistics and like GIS in my case. So a basic laptop is good enough. Just make sure you can run these kind of programs if you plan on taking a GIS minor at least. Yeah, but other than that, no, not really.
That's great. So I agree. So for BES itself, no. So long as your laptop is working, it should be fine. Of course, it's good to have some space in there and you're not already, maxed out on everything. But yes, if you're taking a minor like GS and also some of the other minors and opportunities, then you might need to have more space and more power in your machine. Is there an issue in terms of geography knowledge if you're not taking geography in JC? Wenxing is shaking her head. I was just looking at the table that we have of what you have to take. So in geography, in year one, you've got a choice of 4 modules in geography. For your year 2 modules, for the 3, sorry, I'll start again. you have to take one 2000 level geography module and you have a choice of 4. And you have to take two 3000 geography modules and you have a choice of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 11. So you've got some, you can pick your module that maybe suits your abilities a bit more. So some of those modules are a bit more technical, a bit more sciencey, a bit more physical geography, basically, and some of the other modules are more human geography. So if you're really not comfortable with the human geography side of things, you actually have the ability to choose modules which are more physical geography, which are probably a bit easier if you're coming from a science background, or you might be a bit more comfortable with. I know there's BS journals that focus on wildlife and nature, but are there other interest groups that focus on sustainability issues and fast fashion? Good question. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wensing, but not in BES, so not any groups that are run by BES students, but there's certainly groups within NUS, interest groups within NUS, which deal with a wide range of environmental issues. So Drongos is just basically the BES one, so that's our thing. But there's plenty of opportunity to engage with these issues in the university more broadly. And lots of BES students are engaged in those groups as well. Hi, I heard that those choosing to specialize in environmental bio, you have 3, 4, I was wondering what I'm also open to. Okay, so we no longer have specializations in, so previously, before CHS, you could specialize in environmental geography or environmental biology in your 3rd and 4th year. But that doesn't exist anymore. That doesn't apply to you, the incoming cohort. So you don't need to worry about this. Basically, we took the opportunity under CHS to merge everything. So all BS students take all the same modules, or we have all the same choices, which made a lot more sense to us because it is meant to be a interdisciplinary program. And so it didn't make much sense to us that why do we split you into specializations when it's meant to be interdisciplinary? So we merged everything together. However, you can take, so what you can do is very easily take a minor in geography or a minor in life science. So as a BS student, you're allowed to take a minor in geography or a minor in life science. And it's really quite straightforward to do. You only need to use, I think, two or three modules from your UE space to complete your minor, because you're allowed to double count. I think you're going to take three modules from your UE space, because you can double count 2 modules towards your major and your minor. So that means it's really quite straightforward to do, and I'd strongly encourage you all to do a minor in something. And if you can't think of what, then just do a minor in geography or biology, whichever one takes your fancy. I'm also hoping to get an opinion on how prevalent the environmental sector is. So, okay, so it's the environmental sector in Singapore is growing almost exponentially. I mean, it's really taking off, particularly in sustainability. So many organizations, a lot of companies and industry are much more engaged in sustainability than they were just a few years ago, and they're hiring sustainability officers and creating sustainability teams, and we're very much interested in training up our students to have the best opportunity to take those jobs. But also there's lots of environmental consultancies. There's obviously NParks that hires a lot of our students, but then all the other government agencies have some environmental interest as well, because no longer, it's basically, the environment has gone mainstream. No longer is it a niche area, and it spans across all sectors. Okay, thanks for putting the links in, Zahida. Is it possible to do a second major in business together with BS, or a double degree BSB with a business? Okay, so let me just clarify the difference between a minor, a second major, and a double degree. So a A minor now is 20 MCs, so it's 5 modules to do a minor. And as I mentioned, you can double count for situations where it's possible, you can double count up to 2 modules worth. So if you're doing something like GIS, which there's already some GIS in BES, it means, and I assume Wensin, that you're just needing to take 3 modules outside of BES to get your GIS minor. If you're doing a second major, you can double count up to 4. A second major is 10 modules, 10 modules to complete a second major, 4 of which you can double count between your BES and the second major, if that's possible. BES doesn't have modules everywhere, so if you're doing for instance, if you want to do a second major in physics, you will need to do 10 modules in physics, and you know, which can be done, but you know, just to let you know. So in business, I don't think BES has, I'm not sure if we've got any modules now with business. So Hida, do we have any? No. So yes, you can do a minor or second major in business, but you have to use your UE space to do it. And I'm not, business can sometimes be competitive, so I'm not quite sure. It's worth looking into and maybe contacting business to find out more directly with them what their requirements are, because a lot of people want to do a second major or a minor in business. So I'd look into that a bit more. And then the double degree program is another jump up again. It's a 5-year, you need 5 years to do a double degree. So you can do a major and a second major, no problem within a 4-year program. You've got plenty of unrestricted elective space. You just need to basically use it, or use a lot of it towards your second major, or use a bit of it towards a minor. But a double degree is a substantially bigger commitment, and you would need to contact us and get more advice on how to go about doing that. Take note that you can't do BES as a second major. BES always has to be your primary major. There's no, so you, for instance, a geographer can't do geography as a major and BES as a second major. That's not allowed. Okay. Okay. Is there sufficient time for students in BES to pursue interests outside of school? Is, of course, a busy one. There's always, I mean, it is a busy one, but there's no course in NUS which isn't busy, or NTU for that matter. BES might seem a little bit busier simply because the students often are very passionate about the environment, so they engage with the course a lot, engage with the program and the various activities which are offered. But you know, a lot of our students they live on campus, they're in the halls or in the colleges on campus, and yeah, they're involved in all sorts of things. But I'm not the best person to ask. Wensin, what's your opinion on this and your classmates?
It depends on what you mean by interest outside of school, because a lot of us are doing like, are you talking about like CCAs or like outside interest groups? Like, for example, currently I'm doing a YSN, which is Youth Stewards of Nature under NParks. So it's a NParks project for 6 months. So it is outside of school, but it's an interest outside of school. So I'm not sure if that's what you mean, or are you talking about like hobbies and stuff like that? So you might need to clarify. But for me, currently, it's not that busy. It just depends how you manage your time. Hobbies and families no worries. It really depends how you manage your time. Obviously, during exam period, it will get quite busy. So either, especially during reading week, where you have that break before the 2 weeks of exams. But for year 1, you should be fine, because year 1, especially the CHS modules, a lot of them don't have final exams. So you'll be done by week 13, which is before reading week. So yeah, it's perfectly fine. Just manage your time well. Yeah,
time management is critical to a happy existence in NUS generally. You know, it's one of those things which is it's a bit of a pain to think ahead, but generally it helps with the sort of last, rather than stressing out on the last minute when you realize that you are a module short or something like this, and having to sort of overload and so on. And also, I can't remember if I've said this in any of the previous talks, but we have almost too many opportunities in NUS, too many excellent things you can do. But the ones that spring to my mind, the ones that I always encourage our students to do is the four really important ones to me is the student exchange program. So trying to do a semester abroad, doing an internship, doing a minor or a second major, and doing some sort of research opportunity, whether it be UOPS or FYP or both. So those are the four big ones. These are the four sort of things which are outside your regular modules, but really can boost your employability and also what you get out of NUS and BES. And I'd probably put the student exchange program at the top, but that's a whole semester out of NUS, so you have to plan quite carefully and try and see if you can map some modules and so on. And then, like I say, a minor should be fairly easy to fit into your timetable. You just need to watch out for maybe some clashes. So try and, again, if you think about it earlier on, it will help with your planning. Internship. So I didn't mention this in relation to the field course. The field course, it used to be fixed. You used to have to take it at the end of your third year, basically, as you get this time of year after your third year. But we relaxed that rule so that people can take internships instead. We had people who wanted to take internships at that period. So now you can do your field course at the end of your second year, at the end of your third year, and at the end of your fourth year, which allows you to work in your internships a bit better. So internship, also very important, very good for helping you get a job. And then the research I've talked about a lot. So internships, do a bit of research, go abroad, and try and do a minor or a second major. But if you're going to do all of those, you'll definitely need to be thinking ahead. Even in your first year, you need to be thinking ahead. You don't need to commit to these things in your first year, but you definitely need to think about them. Okay.
The next question is for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For my GIS minor, currently I've only just started. So the only module that I've taken so far that can be counted under my GIS minor is GE 2101, which is the methods and practices in geography. So I can't really say much yet because the intro to GIS module, the intro to GIS, that module is only offered in semester 1. So that is one thing that you might have to take note of when planning your timetables, because some modules are only offered in certain semesters. So for example, intro to GIS is only offered in Sem 1. So I have to take it either next semester or year 3 Sem 1. So you have to plan your timetable properly so that you at least get the module. If not, you have to wait 1 year before you can take the next time. Yeah, but so far, I think it's fun because I do enjoy like field work and like hands-on activities. But I actually started out thinking of a life science minor. But then I realized that GIS, because I want to do research in the future, hopefully, so GIS is actually much more beneficial for me compared to like life science, because I can already take life science modules and I can use like my UE space to take more life science modules if I want. So I was thinking a GIS minor would be better. Yeah, but so far it's fun. Can't say much yet because I've only taken one module under the minor, but more to look forward to.
Do both, Wensin. Do a minor in life science as well. Why not?
Because I've been thinking the modules that I want to do under life science, I can do it under BS as a major requirement. So yeah,
that's true. So that's a good point. So the one, although it is easy to do a minor in life science or a minor in geography, it means that you have to be taking life science modules which are not under BES, and so they tend to be a slightly different kind of module. It might be more to do with medicine or something like that, which I know interests a lot of you as well. But the environmental related modules in biology and the environmental related modules in geography are all under BES already. So you'd be taking modules which are outside of that. So they're a bit more, it's a different kind of geography and a different kind of life science. basically, to the environmental stuff. But you do have up until your the end of your fifth semester to declare your minor. So you have a bit of time to think about it. You don't have to rush into it. And also, but then if you do rush into it and you sign up for a minor in your first or second year, there's no penalty for not finishing it. Nobody's going to chase you. So if you don't complete it, that's fine. There's no penalty. It's just not on your transcript. So don't stress too much about it. So in some ways, it's a good idea to sign up for it. Most minors are open minors, so you don't need to. There's no interview process. You just sign up. And then if you manage to complete all the modules, then great, you get the minor. And if you don't manage it for whatever reason, it's no big deal. Yeah, so when I was talking about research, you see all this stuff behind me. This is all my lab overflows into my office. So I wanted. I don't like the backgrounds, and I wanted to show a more human side of what we do. So I'm in my office, in my lab, outside there, my team, and inside here, like I said, we don't have enough room to put all our equipment and so on, so it overflows into this space here. Yeah, I forgot to mention my own research involves enhancing biodiversity on seawalls, and that's what these lumps of concrete are down here. There, you can see better. And they were just in the newspaper on Monday. So there's a newspaper article on this research on this research that came out in the Straits Times on Monday, which I'm not trying to brag or humble brag. I'm saying because the research that the stuff that we do in BES and the stuff which your professors are doing and so on is, it's relevant and it's real and it's applied and it's being used in Singapore, and it's being picked up by the media. And I showed you the newspaper articles before where the BES students are featured and so on. So it's all very real. The opportunity to engage with real world issues and actually make your mark is there. And of course, getting your face in the newspaper or publishing your research, is very good. It's very good on your CV for when you're looking for a job. Any more questions at all? So as I was just, we had the leaving do for the fourth years who were just graduating last night, which was very nice. They had all sorts of activities going on. They even had a band, which I was surprised at, and lots of pizza and stuff. But we're chatting about their experiences in BS, and they all were very positive about it. But yeah, generally, I mean, coming in, and this is, this is true for any degree that you take, is you get out of it what you put in. So if you engage fully with the BS program and you're proactive and you take the opportunities which come up and you talk to your classmates and your seniors and so on, you'll have a fantastic time and get an awful lot out of it. If you just cruise through the whole process, you'll still have a good time, but it won't be as good. So it's very much what you put in, you get out. And one of the things, sorry, when you about the concern, if you're anxious at all about this timetabling and time management and so on, BS is fantastic for the students, the seniors helping the juniors. So they have various share and care opportunities where the juniors will have an opportunity to talk to the seniors and for advice on what modules they would suggest or what minors they would suggest and that kind of thing. And that's quite special to BES. There's normally, among most majors, there's not so much communication among the years. So there's lots of support, basically. And there's always Zahida, and there's always the program committee and the student committee. So we're always available to be emailed, and we have a mentorship program as well. So you'll meet your mentor face-to-face or on Zoom in your first year, and you can contact them directly and ask them about anything. Okay, so it looks like we don't have any more questions. Any final words from Wensin or Zahida? Anything that we've missed? No.
No. We just have to do a poll to get feedback. Okay. Yes.
Okay, so don't disappear, people. I know we've lost a few just now, but the rest of you, please stay on so you can complete this poll. Okay, do you want to do that now, Zaido?
Yes, I've just launched it.
Ah, fantastic. Yeah. I like number 5. I'm going to accept my offer today. Excellent. Let's have a few more of those. Yay! Excellent. Only if you mean it, though. You're welcome, Luke.
Okay, that's all. Everyone has responded.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you again, everybody. And yeah, I really hope you join us and look forward to seeing you all in August. And enjoy the break. I hope you have a fantastic summer. And thank you for joining us.